whether or not they had more points than the other team had. You know what I mean?
I've never lost the game cage. I just ran out of time.
Yeah, because you're part of this new generation where they don't keep score. And since they don't keep score, everybody nobody loses. This is this generation. You know, I'm gonna take my I mean, this is what happens over here. Everybody gets a trophy, and they stop keeping score. And did we win? Yeah, you won a quarter of an orange. Here, stick it in your mouth. That's the kids now. That's this is the orange quarters. Wasn't that the best thing about playing youth sports?
And Capri Sun with those like little straws. And you stab them like they're. Anyway,
Andrew, he does this to me every now and again. We're just chatting for like 30 seconds, and boom, it's we start recording. So, welcome to another episode of Lucas Tigers and Bronze. Oh my, season 3 of this bad boy. And I gotta make a promise to you guys. I watch a lot of television. I watch a lot of movies, TV shows. After they have really great, real great TV for season 1 and 2, season 3 sometimes sucks. And I think of us as we are The Sopranos. We are Game of Thrones. We are Breaking Bad. We are legit content, right? We are what everybody else should be measuring and falling short of, because that's what has happened for the last 2 years. Everybody wants to look at us, measure against us, and you've been weighed, you've been measured, and you've come up wanting. But what happens in these... Go ahead.
Do you think that's because we're in the lane of our own in a lot of ways?
It makes it easy when you don't have anyone to actually compete against. It makes it easy to win, right? But so here you go. What happens in those shows sometimes is they know they're going to get re-signed. The network will sign up for season 4, 5, and 6 before season 3 is even written, right? Season 3 is not even... And in the show writers, they start to expand a little bit. They go off on tangents. Usually season 3 is where, and I'm nervous about this, and people listening will know why. Usually season 3 is where one of the main characters starts doing peyote, right? And goes off to Joshua Tree or some other place with fancy, scenery, and goes on a drug trip for 4 episodes that make no sense in the whole dynamic of the show.
They signed James Cameron for the main version and then Michael Bay for the sequel.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of explosions, right? But, the peyote thing, I'm a little more concerned about that. Although, it is what it is. But we will not fall victim to that. We will deliver. We will deliver strong content every day, not mailing it in, because there is no season 4 guaranteed. There is no season.
What's our content values? What's our value system? What makes our content good, Cage? How would you urge people to grade it?
We should have them graded, right? And there's some industry summit survey going around out there. You want to write us in. It's like a write-in vote. Sometimes when presidential elections happen, I go and I vote. I vote for Pee Wee Herman. I write Ronald McDonald in sometimes. Write in Influencer of the Year, Andrew Goldberg. That is the Influencer of the Year, because he is the reason I show up every day. So
I do have a big influence in that case. You guys love Cage, and through the properties, okay.
Yeah,
I think that something I pride myself on. I was on Cage and Cardboard's podcast today. First off, thank you for inviting me, Brian. That was a blast. I love doing podcasts. It's cool to share my story. And he was like, "What 10 words describe you?" And I think what makes our show special is I think I figured out my place, and I think you figured out yours. And what I mean by that is I don't think I've made it. The way I described myself was aspiring business person, aspiring businessman. And then another word was curious. I love the interviews. I love bringing people on because I like to learn from them. I like to hear their perspectives. I like to debate. And this is a topic that I'd love to have Josh Luber on for. And I want to ask you first, okay? Ooh. So this weekend, I watched a video. It was very well made. It talked about Fanatics and Fanatics selling cards specifically. And we've heard about how Fanatics will bring people into the hobby. So let me ask you, first.
Just like Coinbase will bring people into NFTs.
Yes. First, honesty, transparency. I think that's what they get from us, our audience. When you hear that a PSA 9 Zion base hoops card is listed on the Fanatics website right now for, do you want to take a guess or you want me to tell you the price?
Sure, you can just tell me. It's over $100.
$150 with a low price guarantee right next to it. When you see cards like that, a Zion Mosaic rookie card base for $200 with a low price guarantee next to it, what makes you?
What's a low price guarantee?
What's a low price guarantee? Currently, there is no information on it. Best price guarantee is another thing that they say. Yeah. Best price guarantee. I'll share my screen so you guys know that I'm not embellishing.
So, I mean, listen.
I'm curious.
There are. I don't know if this even happens anymore, right? But there are coupon matches and price matches, right? So you take when I was a kid, my mother, we didn't have a lot of money. My mother was a coupon clipper, and she would take a McDonald's coupon into Burger King, and they would let her use it. It was like 2 cheeseburgers for the price of one. And even though it was a McDonald's coupon, Burger King would take it. Price matches, electronic shopping. Best Buy, Circuit City, when there were a bunch of, different stores, you could walk into a Circuit City and say, Best Buy has this model television and it's $20 less than what you have. Will you match the price? And they will. They'll match the price. Like there are price match guarantees. Does this mean that if you're able to buy it somewhere, and then what counts as like a competing retailer? Because it used to be like, I couldn't walk into Circuit City and say, my pal Joey down the block is going to sell me a Zenith television for $25, match the price. It had to be like a legitimate thing. So, is it, I could buy this Hoops, Zion PSA 9 on Whatnot for $10? Do card letter comps count? Do I have to buy it in another retailer for them to match the best price? Is it something? Does it eBay buy it now listing count? Like I don't even know what you're talking about, which is why, of course, I now have a million questions because you put something like this in my brain, and I'm like, okay, I got more questions than answers for you. Now I want to stop the episode and go research it. I
think that would help people from a law perspective for sure with this kind of stuff, right? Because we don't want to put our foot in our mouth. But like another thing that they have on here, it says almost gone. Well, no shit, gone. You're almost gone. It's almost gone every day because every
this one of one is almost gone.
Yeah, like it's not muffins, right? And I think what makes cards so cool is sure it's a good, it could be a present, it could be a gift, but it actually is NFT-esque in that every serial number, at least graded cards, every serial number of a card is unique. Not all PSA 10s are the same. Even in the Prism set, you guys could look at that. Different centering is different for the price. Somebody won't buy a PSA 10 if it's a little off-centered, versus someone else will say, give me a big discount. Even though this is a PSA 10, you could clearly see to the eye that it doesn't look good, or it doesn't look 100% 50-50 centering. Any thoughts on that at all? We could go to any of your other topics.
Of course, Fanatics, I think if it's a sort of a StockX type of model, singles, it doesn't work for. It works for wax, right? Because wax is wax. Anything with like a UPC code would work, right? But once you're getting into the subjective nature of individual cards, I guess you could sell a ton of Zion Hoops cards. But then the next question, is after we've now all learned what we've learned from the last 2 years, why would you buy it? Anything that you could sell like this in this manner, that is just something that is interchangeable and repetitive, I wouldn't recommend any of our listeners to ever really buy one.
Hoops or buy off of Fanatics?
Well, both, for lack of a better way of saying it, because if that's their model and they're only going to be able to sell things like that have a repetitive UPC type of nature, right? That it's a barcode that can be repeated, like selling a hat, like a Yankee hat. There's a billion Yankee hats. They're all the same. They can put a jersey on there. They're all the same. Different size, sure, but they're all the same. It's a repetitive nature. If what they're going to be doing, and again, I haven't even looked at the site, so I'm talking out of my ass here, guys. So don't don't hold me to this too much, right? But if what Fanatics is planning to do is sell cards that are just repeat, right? Cards that are interchangeable because that's what fits their model, then yeah, why would you buy one?
Well, they've run auctions. Like there were auctions of actually really nice Peyton Manning cards that were
okay. So that's different. That's very different then.
It was a PSA 10 Manning.
Okay, so there you go.
But my question is I mean, this is there's two things that could happen here, right? So we're talking about Coinbase and Fanatics attracting a new demo. You know, they have a huge mailing list. We've heard this before. Well, let's think about this. If you're new to the hobby, right? You might have collected jerseys or hats or sneakers or whatever, and you're new, and you're like, let me go check out some of the inventory. I trust this company, right? And you go to the site, and you're like, all right, I'm going to make a move. Sure, you should do your own research, no doubt. So you purchase one of the cards that you guys just saw in that screenshot. Great, a week, a month goes by. You go to a show, you show that card off. You're like, hey, take a look. And someone who's a little bit more experienced says, let me take a look. I'm like, how much did you pay for it? I'm like, $150. And they go and they look at the card and they say, man, I got to let you know, like, this is a $10 to $20 card. What kind of word of mouth will that person have? They're in the hole $120, not because the market changed, but because this trusted vendor, this trusted third party sold them a product that was 10, 15x what it would resell for anywhere else. That's not a good feeling. And that's not going to attract people to the hobby.
Is that the only one that's like this, or do they have a whole bunch of, Zion, Luka, like modern hoops cards that are all, 10x what their market value is? Or do you just isolate one? I'm curious.
Well, it's tough because what they do is all the collectibles are under one roof. And dude, they have amazing offerings. Like they have a Manning Fanatics jersey, $560. Now, I don't know what that's worth. Or Manning Super Bowl ball autograph, $525. So when you search Manning autograph, that's what comes up. But let me see, PSA. They do have a lot of cards. They do have more than that, but it's all under one umbrella of like collectibles.
I mean, look, we're painting with a broad brush. Obviously, Fanatics is different, but I mean, you can go on eBay and find that same card probably listed for $150 or buy it now. Also, doesn't mean that you should buy it.
But eBay, you could. Okay, I mean, eBay's peer to peer, but sure.
I mean, there's not many places you can find that card, and there's definitely not many things you can compare to Fanatics. You know what I mean? Everything else is peer-to-peer. I mean, that's the difference. That's what Fanatics trying to bring. I understand what you're trying to say. You're trying to say, you have to be careful what you're pricing things at. But, I mean, you've come up with a very narrow lane of that person who can get burned, right? Someone who buys hats, someone who buys – and I get why you're doing this, right? Because if we're to believe that Fanatics is going to be 3Xing the people who are in the hobby now – then it's not going to be a hobbyist who goes there and knows that card's only worth $20. It's going to be somebody, like you said, who's buying a jersey or buying a hat, or a Fanatics customer who says, hey, I like Zion, I'll buy this. And then they're burned. I would think that, once it's up and running and once it's, in full, you'd have a little more dynamic pricing than that, right? Where they're going to have to obviously use some sort of a data tool, something where, they're not selling cards at that kind of a price. You know what I mean? I would imagine, that's got to change, because you're right. I mean, just at first blush, if the new person you're bringing in is paying significantly more than market value and they don't know that, and there's a level of trust of a brand, and they say, well, of course, if this is a low price guarantee, they can't be charging me $150 for a $20 card, but it looks like they are. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. That would be concerning to me. And what I would say is I would hope if someone from Fanatics is listening, they hear that and are, mindful of that fact. You know what I mean? Like, you would lose that person. That would be a person who would never come back to buy cards from Fanatics. And you might even lose them for buying hats and shirts, too.
It's funny, man. I do wish that our audience would be able to see the behind the scenes of our dynamic, because I do think part of the reason we're somewhat successful is we mix the old with the new. And what I mean by that is, we've talked about this a lot with Cage. He's like, why is your generation always this fake it till they make it culture? He even talks to me about it, right? And it's a good point. Like, think about it. Like, businesses used to just be all done through word of mouth. So you could never fake it. You could just have to deliver a good service, be patient, and wait for your customer to tell two other people. They would come to your butcher shop or your coffee shop or your bakery and be like, hey, John from down the street said you have the best provolone cheese. Can you cut it just like him? You guys out there laugh, but that's just literally how business was done.
Well, when I was a kid, you could take a picture of yourself on a fake airplane, but who are you going to show it to? You know what I mean? What good is it gonna do? You know, I mean,
you think the airplanes are fake? You think
but now, yeah, they're all 100%. They're like studios. They're not even real airplanes. And people but now you post it on Instagram, and all of a sudden you're a rich person. You're a big baller blend.
Well,
big baller blend.
And think of it like so. Right now, we just crossed over 400 Tigers minted. Right?
Woo!
We have cigar night. All of our success with the Tigers has been word of mouth. We post on our story like, "This is what you guys get," or we post and feed, "This is how to get free submissions." And then people are like, "Hey, John told me. Hey, Mark told me. Hey, Mary told me that this is what I'd like to buy a Tiger. Can you walk me through?" I walk them through. They buy a Tiger. They mint the Tiger. And they're like, "Okay, what's next?" And I'm like, "Well, if you got a necklace Tiger with a basketball, you get the Panini.
Send you a bunch of stuff.
Send you Panini. You don't have to pay us $500 to go to a party. You do something like, here's how you do free subs. You send them the cage." I kind of get the feeling that Fanatics, with what I saw, is not that they're bad business people. I think it's fake it till we make it. It's like, all right, we're gonna get into sports cards. We know a little bit about this industry. We know sneakers. We know memorabilia, all that stuff. We're gonna put some cards up, and then we'll get feedback, and we'll adjust from there.
Okay, I mean that's fair, right? I mean that's definitely fair. I mean,
it's fair, but I urge people to realize if you're starting businesses in this hobby, just provide a good service for what you promise. And overpricing your stuff, being the number one retailer, could really have negative consequences. It just could. It could alienate.
Is it possible that card's been for sale since last year?
It probably been for sale since 100 years ago, dude.
No, Zion 100 years ago. No, but you understand what I'm saying, right? Like maybe it's one of those things that just they put up there a year ago, and the price has significantly come down, and they just haven't taken it off the site, figuring who's going to buy this, and maybe they just haven't upgraded the tech yet to have what I would call like a dynamic pricing, or to take something like that down. Like I'd be surprised. Well, I mean, I guess I should. You had a very good hypothetical. You had a very good hypo. What if you have somebody who does not collect cards, and they're a huge Zion fan, and they buy Zion jerseys, and they buy Pelicans hats, and they go to the game, and they're like, you know what, Fanatics is getting into cards. They just read an article. Let me find a Zion card, and they click on it without doing anything else. I mean,
Isn't that the demo that they attract? Isn't it the kid I'm a rich parent, kid collects cards, has mommy or daddy's credit card. I know we don't feel bad for these, but just like say with a she's like, "Hey, I love Zion. Hey, I love Ja." They're like, "Okay, find a few things, we'll buy it." They buy those things. They go to National with their parents. Like, "Dad, I bought this for $150." And then they go to the show, and someone's like, "Dude, that's a $9 card. How embarrassing is it?" That alienates people. Just sell people. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much of it.
Listen,
Let me know in the comments what you guys think.
It's a fair commentary. My hope is that that's more of a one-off, or that's something that, you don't find a ton of those on their site. Maybe it's just something that's been there for a while. That would be my hope, because, listen, we had Josh Luber on. Love to have him back on. Love to have anyone from Fanatics on, right? But we had him on, with the Zero Cool and the whole deal. And I remember asking him a question. And the reason I remember what I asked him was because you made fun of me, because I don't know the right exercises for the right muscle parts because I'm fat and I don't go to the gym. But I asked him, how much does he bench press? Right, I said, "How much do you bench press?" Because you have the weight of the hobby on your shoulders, and you're like, "Bench press isn't a shoulder exercise, Cage, you dumbass." And I'm like, "Okay."
I'm like my inner bro name.
Shoulder press.
I didn't want him to light you up in the fit fam.
The point was, and we went into it with him. Everyone we talked to has a huge expectation for Fanatics, and I think that's where you're coming from. You're not looking for hanky panky. Right? You're not. That's not what you're doing.
The people there. I interact with them on a quarterly basis. Like, "Hey, how you doing? Anything we could help with?" So I like the people.
I think what you're doing is trying to be helpful and trying to provide value for a hobby. And the thing is, we hear it. I hear it from the local card shops that are here. I talked about this, in our episode with Josh. And you guys, Fanatics are going to come in, and we're going to have 3, 4, 5 times as many people in the hobby. That's what I'm waiting for.
Returning cards that they overpaid for.
That's huge. That's a huge burden. And if, maybe this is a small thing, but it will make it harder to bring 3, 4, 5 times the people into the hobby if this is their first entry into it. So I get where you're coming from. I really do. And I'm sure someone from Fanatics will hear this, or someone will play it for someone from Fanatics, and they'll understand. Maybe a more dynamic pricing tool might be something necessary. Maybe a little more clarity on what low price guarantee is, whether there's price matching, whether something like that can be returned, or whether or not they just need to do kind of a review of what they have on their site and the pricing of it. I don't know the right answer. If I did, I would be shelling out billions of dollars for sports licenses. You know what I mean? And I'm not. I got debt. I don't have billions. I got a mortgage.
I think you underrate yourself. I think with the right opportunities or like real industry kind of pioneering opportunities are coming for us. I really do, because, dude, at the end of the day, business is difficult in terms of you have to do, like, it's very challenging. It's a very competitive landscape. But number one, do right by your customer. And your customer is your employees and your true customers. So do right by your customer. Anyway, we won't 20 minutes.
Did you like being interviewed?
I loved it. It's fun, man. I like telling my story.
Cage is a good guy. I've sold to him. We've talked a bunch. Cajun. And it's there are good people in the hobby. It doesn't take too long to figure out who they are. And he's definitely one of them. I was interviewed. My episode with Jan Morning. Is that how you say it? I think Jan, Zhan Morning, the wrestling podcast. I think that gets released tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
Learn something from the story. The yellow back Hulk Hogan card, PSA 8 to 9. Big discrepancy in price.
I mean, listen, I got to tell you, that was fun because I pretended like I knew about wrestling. So you guys are going to kick out of that. You had me on a wrestling podcast.
Cage will know 25% of a topic, so that any room he goes into, he's dangerous with it. It's really shocking.
This is a very important key for someone who has lived as long as I have. Should be able to talk about almost anything. Not be a genius in it. As a matter of fact, I believe it's better to not be a genius. Sometimes the smartest person in the room is the one who shuts up and listens. Something I have a very hard time doing, as people who have been with us for 740 episodes know. Always beware of the guy who's quiet in the room.
We don't have 3 hours like Joe Rogan or Lex Friedman to really dig into Nat Turner's investment philosophy. Hint, buy all expensive PSA 10s.
I mean, it's a good strategy if you have a nice sized wallet. But look, people are giving me shit about my, buy good cards now. I never said buy a logo, man. But I
think you said the opposite of buy a logo, man. That's why I was so surprised. Cage destroyed logo man's like maybe 16 episodes ago.
It's more of auditing. You know what I mean? I think of the National as almost like springtime for the hobby. I know we're well in the summer, but springtime is like that it's the new beginning, right? Spring cleaning, The National is a great time for that. You could reposition into something. You reposition your collection out of something. I mentioned the other day in an episode how, last year I was trying to get the collection to my PC down to like 25 slabs. I get a lot of messages from people who are trying to do something similar. And once it gets down to like 60, 65, 55, they're like, what do I do? Like, I can't, you don't have to. 25 was just an artificial number. Maybe yours is 50. Maybe yours is 70, right? But at least then you can keep track of what you have. My co-host here will tell you a growing inventory sometimes is very difficult to wrangle because he's buying a lot of stuff. And it's like, oh, wait, I have this. Mail days are like a big surprise now.
GE with Jack Welch. And I mean, everyone has their own philosophies. But he would trim the fat. Like, he would fire the bottom 10% of his employees every single year. Now, you guys, unethical, you should take care of all that stuff. Sure. But successful people trim the fat every single year. Trim the fat in their negative habits, right? How can I trim the fat? So I agree. I totally agree. Trim the fat. Audit your portfolio.
Yeah. And look, you're not going to be right on all of them. I could point to 100 cards that I sold that I should have probably kept. But you know what? I could also probably point to 60 of them using the money and buying something even better. You know what I mean? And it's also, that's fun. Guys, let's take a step back for a second. I can tell you without a doubt, Andrew's having more fun in the hobby right now than he has in a long time. And that's got to sound weird to people listening because this is not a quote unquote fun time in the hobby. You would think everybody's having fun when everybody's making money and killing it. But he is more knowledgeable about the hobby, the pricing, the cards, what sells, what doesn't now than he ever has been. Right? So talk about that a little bit. Talk about some of the fun you're having with just being in the weeds. No, you don't want to?
No, I do. I could go. Well, first off, I went through dark times. Like, I think we think of having fun as like just like this nonstop, like the Happy Gilmore scene where his wife is running or that girlfriend is in lingerie. His grandma pulls the trigger.
Virginia Bennett.
Yeah,
in charge of PR for the PGA Tour.
Yeah, but like that's not fun. Like, I think we, in a lot of ways, our darkness, our mistakes, our buying a card and then losing money on it, are all of that negative stuff or the thing that goes against us goes into fun. I think we sometimes forget about that. And I think of myself as a rookie in the hobby. Like, I know it's been 2-3 years, so maybe I've been through a few cycles, but like I'm learning. And at this stage for this season, I feel like I have a good pulse on the market because of all the work I did. But I'm not naive. Cage wants to. He's peering at me. He's ready to bounce. Like, say one word wrong. Say it. I dare you. But right now, I feel like I had a good pulse on the market into what to buy. I'll give you an example. Curry patch cards. I've been buying them up for a few weeks. Maybe started, July 17th? Maybe starting at June 9th, that auction. And I did well. I got a sophomore season game worn beautiful patch out of 49. A few others. And those were $40-$50. Yesterday's auction, it was competitive. It was like a boxing match with Floyd Mayweather, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield. Everyone was in there. Joe Brown, the Bronx Bomber. I was like, where did all these bidders come from? Like,
Joe Brown.
Did I say that right? Anyway,
dude, I love you.
And dude, everything was bid up. It was more expensive, and the competitiveness in me, I was like, no, I'm gonna get these, and I got 46 Curry cards, all numbered. But I was like, what was my entry? My entry now was 2.5 times what it was just 4 weeks ago. Am I making the right decisions? Now, the game's changed. And I think that evolution of business and markets, and I think you learn a lot. I think you ask a lot of questions. At least I'm curious.
Do you remember the beginning of June? I forget, we had a guest on, and we were talking about how June is the time to buy. For whatever reason, prices go down, the NBA ends, baseball's kind of in that weird period.
Pancake Analytics talks about how April, May is the time to sell. June, July is the time to buy.
And I think we're at the end of that buy cycle, and you're seeing that. You're seeing that in the PWCC auctions. And guys, I'll give you a little glimpse of behind the curtain here. It is Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze. And for this episode, the role of the Wizard will be played by the understudy, Andrew Goldberg. And the Wizard here, he reached out to me leading up to PWCC auction. He's like, this is not as easy as it's been the last couple of weeks. I'm being outbid. Like, he was getting frustrated. It's like every bid I put in is getting beat by another 10%, another 20%. They're just, this is ridiculous. They keep bidding. And that wasn't happening in the prior auctions. You had to get a little more creative with your purchases this week. And I love some of your purchases. I don't like some, but I love some. I mean, Ben Baller. So,
why didn't you tell me? I didn't know you. I bought a Soto Gold on-card auto from 2021 with Ben Baller's face on it. No, it's the Ben Baller Topps Chrome version.
Ben Baller.
Top one. But that was actually one of the easier cards to get. So what I learned is sometimes go up a tier. Sometimes go up a 2 tiers. So the 2 cards that I bid on that I didn't get bid off was PSA 9 Peyton Manning Gold Topps Chrome and a PSA 10 Juan Soto Gold PSA 10 Pop 1. 2 golds that were 300 and 500 with buyer's premium. Those actually, I put a bid in like Sunday morning-ish, Sunday afternoon. Those didn't get rebid, even in extended. But like that tier of like 25 to 125, man, that was a competitive battleground yesterday. Like bid, rebid. Like, oh man, that was a battle.
I think part of it, a lot of people were looking for inventory, right? Because these are cards they can get before National. So there are a lot of people looking for inventory in that range to fill out their showcases, to bring for trades, to bring, you're looking for the same type of stuff that these people are reselling now. So the Jeters, the Griffies in baseball, the Jordans and Kobe's and LeBrons that sit in that low end jaw, and the quarterbacks in football, they all get a little bit of a bump.
Yep.
This is what happens.
It happens.
This is what happens.
But that's healthy, right? Like you always talk about like that bottom tier propping things up. What were you looking at yesterday? What cards were on your eye and you were like, these are all expensive?
I don't know what they ended at because you talked me out of my strategy. But I was ready to take a dip in the Sam Darnold pool. And let me tell you my thought process on this, guys. All right? I didn't buy him, and I probably should have. But leading into the auction end, there were 3 awesome Sam Darnold cards. An RPA, a true RPA out of 99. A gold vinyl auto, which I think was either out of 2 or 3. And a gold vinyl, base by itself out of 5. Like really nice, high end. The cards that if they were
Let's have some
fun.
Let's have some fun. So go true RPA. Where do you think it closed? I pulled all 3 of them.
$850.
God, he's so good. $630. Gold vinyl
plus the buyer's
auto.
premium, right? $630 plus the buyer. Oh no, that includes it.
No, $630 with buyers.
$630. Okay. Gold vinyl auto. $580.
$870.
Wow.
Gold
okay.
Vinyl 5 out of 5 PSA 9.
$1,000.
$750.
All right, so they all kind of ended in the same range. They were like in the 3s when I was looking at them. And my thought on it was Baker Mayfield coming in. Either Mayfield hurts himself again or just does Baker things, and Darnold is the quarterback, and then people are not pricing it like a backup quarterback. Or Baker surprises everybody and, wears his Hulu jersey on the field and actually looks like he could play. And Darnold gets traded to a team that still needs a quarterback, like Seattle or, a myriad of other teams, New Orleans. And I'm like, all right, you know what? Then all of a sudden, he doesn't even have to play yet. I'll just move it the week he gets traded. So I was looking at those and decided against it because I didn't want to lock up a couple $1,000 in cards and just like have to sit until football season. But that was kind of where my brain was. It was more like, strategy kind of stuff on these guys. I was looking at some Mahomes cards. I will be looking for a card at National, by the way. And I'll share this with our audience, but I can't say it too loud because the kid might hear me. So you guys, I'd love to put an end to the Zion Green Pulsar saga of 2018.
Is he still asking about it?
He asked me about it yesterday. He's like, when is PSA going to send back that card?
He is not, dude. Oh, my God.
So,
talk about never forgets in this family. Ian, move on. I just sent you Fortnite cards for your birthday. What are you? So you don't like the hammer?
Well, so Ian pulled a Zion Prism retail. It's a card no one really wants, I don't think, because it's out of retail. It's the green Pulsar, which is out of 25. And, before the market got really crazy, but as the market was heating up and Zion was hot and the whole deal before he missed any time and the whole, I sold the card raw. It was very off-centered. If you guys want to take a look at the card, you can see it. I still have the post on my Instagram page. I still have it on my page where, it's like I saved it. I said, hey, should I sell this or should I grade it or what should I do with it? And there was no way it was going to get anything more than a 9, more likely than not. It was probably going to grade even lower than that because it was off center. And it's one of those things where you can see not just the prism, the sides, but with the Pulsar, it has these little circles, so you can count. One side has 3 circles and one side has 5.
Realistically, an 8. Realistically,
yeah, most likely an 8. And I've seen a couple of these sell on eBay. BGS. I think I saw a BGS 9.5. I've seen a couple of PSA 9s. So it's only out of 25, and people say, hey, if there's a card you're looking for, they'll be at the National. I'd be looking for one, even if it's raw. I mean, preferably PSA graded because, that I can sneak it back in and be like, hey, look what finally came back. And I'm sure, and just to put a ribbon on the story, I'm sure I can buy even a PSA 9 for less than what I sold the Raw one for way back in the day.
A photo cage. I mean, that's a completely different demographic card, but like, I bought a Jordan Fleer Ultra from '96 gold medallion, and I searched the cert number as a PSA 9, and I was like, and it sold for $125 during the Last Dance run up, and I was like, I just bought a Jordan card for less than it was during like peak card season. That was a cool feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot of stuff has come down. A lot of stuff has come down. A lot of stuff has come down to, before that pricing. And I mean, Zion itself, I know I'll get that card because I'm not a believer in Zion long term. No. So even if I have to give him the Zion card, on his wedding day, that card will be like $25 by then. No one's gonna want it.
You haven't prospected in a while, right? So nope. Cage went from you guys, old Cage, young Cage actually was Tatis, Devontae Graham in early 2020. Then he got boring. And Pete Alonso. And then he got boring. He got into Yogi Berra and, Kareem 8.5s, moved into Jordans, Montana's Rice. He added the LeBron. Is prospecting next? Are you getting that itch with Sam Darnold? You're dumpster diving with Sam Darnold?
I'll get back into prospecting probably. I'll get back into prospecting probably in 2 or 3 years is where I'll be in the hobby again, and I'll tell you why.
2 to 3 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, we'll set our clocks for 2025. Thanks for the thanks for the advice, champ.
One, I don't like the most recent basketball classes. I don't like Mobley. I don't like Barnes. I think they're all going to be very good basketball players, but I don't like them. Let me clarify. I think they're all going to be very good basketball players. There are several all-stars in this draft, but not at the prices people are already paying for them, right? And that's why I say 2 to 3 years, because what's going to happen is people are going to get flushed out because people are going to be paying LeBron prices for Cade Cunningham. People are paying, more than Dwayne Wade prices for Scotty Barnes, right? And these are great players. I don't want to crap on you. There are people paying more than Ray Allen prices for Herb Jones. Herb Jones is a nice role player, but he should not be getting the pricing that he is getting. And that will ultimately wash out. But I mean, seriously, so
that's crazy.
It will also extend in the next couple of years to quarterbacks. Now, the market is going to be fine. The hobby is going to be fine. I'm not bearing this again. I had an episode within the last week where it was like, hey, hobby, I'm bullish long term. People call me a bear. I'm not bearish, but there are people who are going to get hurt. I can't tell you which ones they are, but there are people invested right now in Mac Jones, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Tua, and the list goes on. And they're invested in all of them at prices 60 to 80% of what the 1 or 2 of them that succeed will be. So there will be people invested in that group of quarterbacks that I just named who will make money from where they are now. Though there is someone in that list that I just named whose cards are going to go up, but only 1 or 2. And the other 7 or 8 are going to go down drastically. And if you do the math there, what that means is that 60%, 70% of the people who are investing in these cards now are going to lose in the next couple of years, right? That's going to change the dynamic of collecting in 2 or 3 years. People are going to get wise to this because they haven't been through this cycle yet. They haven't been burned by a bad basketball investment. They haven't been burned by investing in somebody. Rip's bad call was Kawhi. Remember that? People. But if you go through this, there aren't that many people who invested in Ben Simmons and got burned in this cycle, right? Because the hobby wasn't killing it in 14, 15, 16, right? But as you go forward, right, there are people, I could have been one of them, who was invested in Devontae Graham. And those cards will soon be worthless if they're not worthless already, right? There will be people who are invested heavily in Herb Jones. And there will be a time in the not-so-distant future where those cards are worthless. And we will see that cycle over multiple sports. Those people will probably leave.
I mean,
and then I'll prospect again.
Even like we'll go if we want to go higher tier. I don't know if it's Herbert or Burrow or Tua, but even Hurts, like
Hurts, yeah.
If two of the, I mean, if two
Trevor
of those,
Lawrence,
if two of those pan out, that's a miracle. But you got me thinking, because I mean, there's also sub groups of cards within the industry, and I think the group that got crushed the most was this group. Was everybody graded LeBron, even 2014, 2013, everyone. But not many people graded a Ray Allen in those time periods. But then they started grading them when they saw the boom. They went through their book of cards again, right? They're like, what else can I grade? They saw the gold rush. They sent those cards in. PSA held them up for a year and a half. What I saw recently was a supply run of those cards, the second-tier Hall of Famers, we could call them. Mm-hmm. You could go down the list. Iverson, Steve Nash, Tim Duncan, David Robinson. I mean, like Dirk Nowitzki, all of those, right? Like all that second tier of mumbo jumbo that might not have been gradable in 2013, 2014, 2015. Those all got bulk subbed, right? Especially when people saw. And they all hit the market right around the same 6 to 9 months. So you say Herb Jones is more expensive than Ray Allen. Mm-hmm. Well, you have a supply shock of Ray Allen cards, but you have like this weird artificial scarcity of Herb Jones, right? Because no one was grading Herb Jones at 150. A few people super expressed them, right?
Very smart. It's very smart.
And there's this weird artificial scarcity that's going to go away with the fact that his true performance is going to, like, his true performance is going to be more the defining of his price.
Take your thesis a step forward on the second-tier GOATs. Right now, their prices might be artificially depressed because of the amount of supply, and that supply is not going to increase. That supply is going to get eaten up over the next 6 months, a year, and you're not going to have a million Dirk, a million Ray Allen, a million Dwayne Wades hitting the market. I mean, Wade, people probably should have been grading Dwayne Wade, but you understand what I'm saying, right? So those will be moving in the opposite direction. But the problem is most people are investing in the rookies now. They're not putting their money into the, those other guys.
Guys, if Ray Allen, like PSA 8s and 9s and 7s, a Fleer Meadow, nice set. Like sometimes they don't get a bid on PWCC Weekly.
$10. You can steal for $10.
$10. Like we're talking about a Hall of Famer in a really iconic set that's tough to grade. It's not even getting bids. So just to put it into like a little bit of relative perspective to like second and third tier rookies, that there's going to be a flood of these guys that fail. We don't know. I mean, it's impossible to know which ones they are, but would it be crazy if Tua's not in the league in 2 years or if he's on the bench?
I mean, Sam Darnold in 2018. Remember Sam Darnold? I remember people coming into our Instagram group saying Sam Darnold, and I was buying Josh Allen at the time. No BS. And I was getting Josh Allen stuff cheaper than Sam Darnold. Now, Allen has proven that he's a hell of a quarterback. I don't think Josh Allen becomes worthless per se,
again, but you won on your entry there. You were getting someone with potential for cheap, not getting someone with potential for expensive. Mm-hmm. It's not the guy, it's the entry on those guys. How do you minimize your risk?
Yeah. So that's where I go, right? I mean, but I sold Josh Allen early. I mean, I got out of Josh Allen, bought him, and I made profit, and I got out. I probably should have held, but that's just not how I roll. But the point was the Darnold comp. The point was, you remember that year, Josh Allen was taken after Darnold, after Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is Trevor Lawrence. Prove me wrong. You know what I mean?
Proving you right.
So, Zach Wilson is Sam Darnold. Prove me wrong. Now, I'm not saying they're the same style of player and the whole deal, but they are early picks going to teams that haven't been relevant in a very long time and probably won't be relevant as long as those people stay there. And they were hobby darlings. I remember going into my LCS in late 2018 and the hobby store owner's wife yelling about how a cracked ice Baker Mayfield 5-figure card was pulled out of the box. You just missed it. I remember being at a show at Hofstra and asking somebody, National Treasures 2018, like, what's in there? Like, Baker Mayfield's in there. Like, nobody said Josh Allen's in there. They said Baker Mayfield. You got to open this and try to get Baker Mayfield cards. That's what people are saying now about Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence, Mac Lowry.
I'm surprised you're not a buyer of Baker after this trade, right? Like, to me, Carolina is a dream, and it checks all the boxes. NFC easy. Brady's out of that division in a year, more than likely. A ton of weapons. You dump off to Christian McCaffrey if he could stay healthy. You've got to. He can't stay healthy. He won't stay healthy. So, are you a believer? Like, if you're once injured, always injured. Like, what's your thought?
No, I think you're right about either Darnold winning or Baker, and you could buy both of them if you want. If you think that's a good situation, the whole deal, you want to buy Baker. I think it's smart, but here's the problem I have with it. Right? It's something I would have done last year. It's something I would have done 2 years ago. Buy Baker. It's something I would have, or the similar Baker, because you're using your fantasy sports brain.
Yes.
You're using your sports betting brain. You're saying, hey, the odds on him he's like a long shot. It could pay off. You're using your fantasy. Like, I can get him in a later round. He's going to deliver the same kind of stats or close as somebody else. But the hobby does not follow those rules. You've learned this now. The hobby, people don't buy this kind of crap. People don't jump in on the redemption story. Who's the last quarterback redemption story that the hobby bought back into? No one. Literally no
Derek
one.
Carter should be redeemed. Honestly, he led a team to the playoffs, plays well.
Carr, I mean,
even Russell Wilson isn't redemption story, and he's way better than Baker. Like, I thought his prices would surge after going to Denver.
Super Bowl winner. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. The hobby right now, it's in a weird place where you have to have one of these trajectories. And you're going to see it over the next couple of years. You're going to see Zion better come, he better play, he better dunk, he better win. Ja better continue winning and maybe make it to the Western Conference Finals. Otherwise, the prices of those cards are not justified. They're just not, right? I mean, people want it. It is Netflix. People do not want commercials. They do not want a commercial break in the momentum of their players. Patrick Mahomes saw a little bit of this. Josh Allen better basically win the MVP or get to the Super Bowl or both this year. Otherwise, his pricing does not work. Tua better lead his team to the playoffs and then some. He better learn how to throw, first of all. But he better do some stuff. Otherwise, his prices are not justified, right? It's the same exact thing across the board. But everybody is so heavily invested in these things that at the first sign of trouble, boom, there's a cliff, right? The way a hobby works, they'll keep climbing that mountain. But the first sign of trouble, boom, the bottom falls out. And that, I don't know if that's a sustainable thing. That's why I say I can prospect again, but it's probably going to be 2 or 3 years. So I got to jump, but I want to ask you a question. I asked you this once, and maybe we'll keep it 30 seconds, 1 minute, you name it, the whole deal, right? You kind of heard what I'm looking for from a card perspective at the National, just because it's funny, and I'd love to, grab one of those. But I asked you, and you kind of gave me like a half-ass, like, I want to see the smiles of the people who listen to our podcast. What are you looking forward to at National this year? Because, you've been in the hobby before. Last year, the 2019, National, the one that we went to last year, which was 2021, whatever the hell it was, right? The National we were at in Chicago was the first one for both of us. Right, that was like we were there for a year. That was sort of like the first one, and we for a little while it's like almost deer in a headlight kind of deal. And we I would honestly say going into that, my thought process was I want to take it all in. It's my first time really going. I want to be a fan. I want to be a collector. I want to take it all in. Same a little bit this year, or you got other no? So talk to me.
No, dude. First off, all the people that know me, like my inner circle, they know I'm a weirdo. Like, I'm an introvert. I don't like parties. If my buddies are like, yo, we're in South Beach, we're getting a bottle, we're going to have all these ladies around us, I'm like, dope. Do you want to kind of come home over for the after party? Like, I'm that dude. So what I'm excited for, I know it's bullshit. Like, I want other people to have a good time. Like, I'd rather be working that after party than being like partying, I guess, so to speak. So I genuinely want people to have a good time. That's why I'm loading up on slabs. That's why I'm excited for cigar night. That's why I'm trying to be as prepared as possible. That's why I'm asking and reaching out to the content influencers that we're friends with. Like, how can we help promote what you're doing? I genuinely hope that the audience, our listeners, and the people that I'm yet to meet enjoy their time, because I could come home after the show. I'll be tired. I'll blaze, chill, get some good food, get back on my 75 hard routine, and I'll be happy then. Like, I'll I'll enjoy the moment. I'll be grateful for all of it. But I genuinely want the people that are listening and their family, friends to go there and be like, whoa, when we interacted with Luca Nation, with Cage, with Andrew, that was an awesome experience. And those guys are everything that they say they are. The one thing I hate or I'm scared of is I've never wanted to be a fraud. Not in the fraud of like illegal, like, yo, you're like this on camera when I watch your podcast, but then when I see you in person, you're kind of a douchebag. Like, that to me would be ultimate failure. So
that's no good.
That's no good, but that's the reality. Like, I've run into people I've seen on Instagram, 1 million followers. I remember this couple. They do like pranks and funny skits. They're like a relationship ones on the way to Cancun. I was like, oh, watch your content. You guys are pretty funny. And they were just like not funny. They were like so dry. And I was like, whoa. Like, I'm not going to watch your shit anymore because you're nothing like it.
There you go. Well, we are what we are. What you see is what you get with us, folks. I like it. I like your answer. I do. Thanks, Luca Nation.
Comment and subscribe. A lot of topics. Comment on Fanatics, on the state of the hobby, and how awesome we are.
So thank you all for listening to another episode of Lucas, Tigers, and Bronzo My. I wanted to tell you about a new service that we have starting as of today, and I'm really, really excited to bring it to you guys. So as a part of our partnership with SGC, we got 50 free submissions every single month, and many of you have taken advantage of that. And it's amazing that we could have the opportunity to 650 episodes, 675 episodes in, to go ahead and give back to our community. As people were sending those cards in, they asked, can we send 5, 10, 20 more cards to you guys? We'll pay for it, but we wanted them graded with SGC. You guys know SGC is turning cards around in 13 to 14 business days, have incredible customer service, and their secondary market values are going up day after day after day. And that's exciting for the hobby and exciting for the grading landscape. So we didn't want to just rush into it. We wanted to do it right. And what we did was I relocated here to Boca Raton, Florida. I opened up a P.O. box maybe 5 minutes away from SGC, and I will be hand delivering and hand picking up the cards. So you don't have to worry about anyone else touching your cards. It will be me, and I will update you every step of the way. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to personally pick up the cards from a P.O. box, prep them, new card saver, new penny sleeve, and deliver them to SGC every single Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Well, it lets the stragglers over the weekend come back through on Monday and gives me a day to prep, and it basically gives SGC the entire week to work on grading those cards. Once your cards pop, only then at the end of the process will you be paying for the service. It's $25 per card, simple as that, and the turnaround times have never been faster. We're hearing right now 13, 14, less than 20 business days. So there it is. 9170 Glades Road, number 135 is the P.O. Box in Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. 9170 Glades Road, number 135, Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. Of course, you could shoot me an email or shoot me a text anytime, and I'm always available. Many of you already have my email. It's iamandrewgoldberg@gmail.com. or my cell phone number, 215-519-9154. Reach out with any questions. I could walk you through the process. I've hopped on the call with quite a few of you, and I'm happy to do that. Love you, Luca Nation.